Welcome to Rickshaw Skill Modelling. For my next build is going to be this Trumpeter Challenger II. Now this kit is a fully decal kit, a few parts in it. I decided to do it initially in a sand desert cameo, but then when I was looking at some pictures and that, I decided to add the green cameo background to it as well. So the sprues, there's quite a few of them, as you can see here. There's a big part dedicated to the extra armour and the bulldozer front. In the end I decided not to do the bulldozer front for the tank, just because I found it a little bit tricky. So there is 4 edge parts to this, and this is for the coverings of the front of the tank and rear. And the tracks are rubber, as you can see there, which were easy enough to fit. So there's no time like the present, so we'll get on with this build. So first things first, I'll start building the bottom part of the hull in this base coat sandy yellow. And then moving on to the parts on the sprue. I just done everything in this base coat yellow on the sprue before I got on with the main build. Once the sprues are all painted, I moved on to the rubber tracks, and I'm painting them in the steel colour first of all. So with the main assembly now, I'm beginning to build the wheels first of all. Placing in the small poly caps that go into the wheels if you want the wheels to go free moving. Don't glue these into place, they just slot in. And for the final wheel build, it's just a matter of building the drivetrain wheel. I'm painting the outer rims of the wheel now in a dusty black colour. So for the suspension, first of all we've got to put in the brackets for the suspension and the drivetrains for the smaller wheels as well. Just make sure everything's completely dry on this part of the kit before you move on to adding the other suspension bars and that. This is the last arm of the suspension wheels going on now, and as you can see there's slot in. Moving on back to the tracks, I'm now going over the tracks with a light coating of rust colour. I'm using a stipple brush here just to dab on the paint in a random way, wiping off any excess just to give it that faded dirty look. Moving on to the front section of the lower hull, just adding all the brackets and bits and pieces. Onto the suspension bars now. These get fitted into the brackets I put in earlier. Now when you're putting them in, like the brackets, make sure they're 100% dry. The wheels will move up and down, but before you start adjusting, once you put the wheels on, I can't emphasize enough how they've got to be solid within the unit before you go into that stage. So that's the system in now, and I'm just adding a little bit of glue for where I think it needs it. Positioning the wheels onto the axle and suspension, because you're putting the poly caps, these just push in, there's no glue required. Even if you don't want them to be freewheeling, the fits are nice, so you just push them in and it's solid. Placing the tracks on it is quite simple. I did find it helpful using the drivetrain to feed them in. There was not a lot of room, but I got there in the end. It's just a little bit fiddly, just take your time with it and they'll go in okay. I moved on to the back armour plate now before I fastened up the trunk. The reason for that was just to make sure that the truck was in the right position once all the armour was in place. So once I test fitted the back armour plate, I decided to remove the track, put them back on to the position I wanted, and then it was time to join the track together. Now it was just a simple case, a little bit of glue and the locator pins, and all together with some clamps. Now the track's fixed into place, it was time to go back to the back armour plate and get the final assembly done for that part. So on the back armour plate, the first photo etch parts, these are little square brackets that hold the extra armour in place. Why the photo etch part, I have no idea. I don't think it adds anything to the model whatsoever. So once you take your photo etch part off the sprue, just bend it in position, either using a straight line pair of tweezers or a bending tool to make them up, and then I attach them using some super glue. And once everything's dry, put it on the back armour plate, then the main unit can be fitted to the bottom hull. Onto the next photo etch part for the mud guards for the front and back. Again, take them off the sprue, and this time I'm using my bending tool just to put them in place. As you can see, it's a little jig. You put them in, marry them up to your line, and just bend them to the position you want. Again, these are secured with using super glue. Now I'm just refining the colour on some of the parts, adding shading and the metal effects and so forth. Again, once everything is dry, I'm moving on to the front of the tank, building the lights and wing mirrors before moving on to the other bits of furniture that goes onto the tank. At the rear of the hull, there's tiny little brackets and hooks you have to place in. This can be a little bit delicate, so just be careful. And once the brackets were in, it was time to put on the main covering for the engine, as well as the storage boxes. Onto the armour of the side of the tank now. All intents and purposes, these are just boxes that you make up and put on the side of the model. Before we attach the armour, you have to put in little brackets for it to hold on to. And once it's all dry, it's a simple case of a little bit of glue and hooking on the armour plating to the side of the tank. Once the main armour is in place, we can move on to the brackets that go at the rear of the tank for the extra armour. The extra armour is simple enough to put on, just make sure you line it up properly. You do need a little bit of glue for it to hold on, but you can dry fit it easily enough without the glue to see where you're going to put it. I suggest making a little mark on the armour with a pencil or something, so you know where you're going to be putting it before you start gluing it in place. Time now to pay attention to the turret. So I'm just making up the bracket for the gun. Again, make sure that it's thoroughly dry before you place the barrel inside, and you place the unit inside the turret. You don't want any stray bits of glue that you haven't noticed getting stuck into it That way I won't be able to move then. Now the bracket's made up, make up the gun barrel. Simple case of gluing slot in the end. There's little location pins for you so that you don't put it in the wrong way. And once you're happy with the bracket and barrel, just marry them up. There's a little bit of work to be done inside the turret. You have to place in the covers for the windows and lookout points. Now it's up to you what order you want to do this in, but I decided to put in the brackets to hold the armour in place now before I closed it all up. And then I moved on to the machine gun and the other bits and pieces that go onto the main turret. The reason why I done it this way before I put it all together was I thought it'd be easier before the gun main barrel goes on, just for ease of room and to get into any strange angles. Now that's the gun almost made up now, just making a location hole slightly larger, and once that's there I will leave that to one side for now before carrying on with the turret. Now this one kit doesn't come with any clear parts, so I'm just painting in the windows using a dark royal blue and gloss. That just gives it an illusion of a darkened window. Back to the inside of the turret now, and just placing the brackets to hold the main gun. And once all the brackets are in place, you just put on the locator brackets and slide it into place. Again, no glue required here because you want the gun to be free moving. Once you're happy with the position, it's time to cement the turret and close it up. And back to the main turret, it's time now to put on all the different parts of the furniture for the side to get ready for the main armour. So back to the main turret, time to put on all the different bits and pieces of it. So here I'm just putting on the smoke rails first of all, and then the covering panels for the windows and outlets. Moving to the main armour which goes onto the brackets. The command turret cover is going on, and then it's the brackets to hold the armour at the rear of the turret. The brackets for the arrows were next to go on, and then it was the machine gun and other cover for the turret to go on. Once everything was in place, it was finally ready to receive the extra armour to go on back. Make sure you line these up with the front armour boxes. Don't try to make them stick up. It can be a little bit confusing because there is a raised area at the back, so it won't look 100% square when you put it on. There is a raised part. If you see the actual armour slants down, so you have to be quite careful when you're marking these up to put them on. So once I was happy with the locations, I then just applied some cement. And again, once everything was dry, I tidied up any scuff marks on the paintwork, any scratches, blemishes and so forth that I didn't like. Moving back to the main hull, it was time to start weathering the tank. So I started with the radiators and used the suit on weather pigment from Tamiya. Once the engine grills were done, I went over all the rivets and little sticky up parts with the weathering powder gunmetal. Now the main weathering's done, it was time to put on the turret. And again, there are just little location slots you put in. Be careful if you've got the side mirrors on, they may snap off. There's a little mistake I made. I had to re-glue them back on once I got it in. So using dark green, I started painting the barrel first with the camouflage colour before moving on to the main tank. Now that the camouflage is painted, I moved on to the aerials, which are just stretched through and painted in metallic grey. And now for the first coat of varnish. So this is a Pledge Clear I'm painting on. Now the varnish is dried, I'm using Umbro number 78, which is a darker sand colour, and I'm taking my stipple brush, putting a very small amount of paint on the brush and just dabbing it over the entire tank and camouflage, just to blend in the camouflage colour and to give it a weathered look. And for the last part of the process, I'm using Citadel brown textured paint, and I'm placing this on the tracks and the wheels and the side of the tank to simulate mud. Well, the last coat of varnish is drying now, so this is going to bring the build to a close. Thank you all very much for watching. There will be a small slideshow at the end of the video to show you the completed tank. Why don't you check out my other videos on the channel? But for now, thank you all very much for watching. Bye bye.